Okay, so next we move to item 11, the Christchurch Agency for Energy Trust, CAFE. Now, my understanding is that there's a presentation, and Pauline, you'd like to make some comments as the chair of this organisation. So you've noted a conflict in terms of this meeting, but of course that gives you the ability to present in your role as the chair of this organisation rather than a member of the committee participating in this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning. So I was going to give you a brief overview of the projects that received the Christchurch Energy Grant from CAFE. So in total, near on $2.2 million of grants were allocated over around about 6 years to a range of projects, which I'll briefly go through. So the first on the list was the community LED lighting upgrades. So that was implemented through the Community Energy Action Charitable Trust, and they put LED installations in there. To date, around about 165 houses and over 2,000 lights have gone in. And at the same time, installation of those homes, and low-income homes, deprivation levels, and community services card holders, there was criteria. Also, there was a replacement project with the Christchurch City Mission with homes. Some other projects, artesian ground source heat pump systems being implemented in the rebuild, basically, time. At the Arts Centre of Christchurch, over the road at the West End with the Christchurch District Energy Company, and also in our Tahu property connecting up to that system, and the terrace also have artesian ground source heat pump systems. So quite a success in getting that efficient technology in across the city. There's a commercial photovoltaic panel system on the West End. Just if you're up on the 6th floor, have a look out there, you'll see a panel system, commercial size panel system on the top of that roof to support the 2 office buildings over the road. You'll remember this one, that the CAFE supported charging infrastructure towards the 100% battery electric car sharing scheme, which is now called Zilch. Another significant program, CAFE supported 3 100% battery electric buses on the route from the airport to the bus interchange. That was really ground-leading in New Zealand, because it was, I understand, the first bus service that was totally battery electric. Other jurisdictions were putting in trials and whatnot. This is an actual service and high profile, and that was launched in July last year. Battery electric aircraft, still a bit under the radar because it's going to be officially launched. You'll hear about this later in the year and get some invites to come along to this. This is the first of its kind in New Zealand, a battery electric aircraft. So CAFE supported that through some funds towards charging infrastructure. Electric vehicle charging infrastructure, this was a big project, and that was basically working with business property owners to put in charging infrastructure for the public. And here's some quick photos of that at placemakers. You can see the pictures there of the charging and the signage. And part of this was to keep the signage consistent. Christchurch City Council, we developed that signage and got that through NZTA. So that's the national signage for battery electric vehicle charging. Antarctic Centre there, and there the airport. So the CAFE supported 59 charging sockets across the city at 18 sites, and you'd recognise a number of those sites there, and there was some more over the page. So these projects, these electric vehicle charging projects and the battery electric vehicle support projects very much assisted our application to an awards, and they were significant in regards to, we got recognised as Christchurch as there's the 2 awards Len's put up there, in both 2017, 2019, we're the most EV friendly Town of the Year award. So Christchurch were doing a lot, but this CAFE support to all those electric projects were very, very important to getting those awards when I put us in for that application. Just to end with, times are changing. Even the Empire is supporting battery electric vehicles. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed. Pauline, I'd invite some comments from you as the chair of the trust.
Oh, thank you very much, and thanks for that presentation, Kevin and Len. Yeah, well, look, the Cafe was actually, the Christchurch Agency for Energy Trust was set up in 2010, and we've dissolved it in, I think, June 2020 this year. So it was originally funded from carbon credits that were gained from the Burwood landfill gas, and the purpose of the trust was to promote energy efficiency, energy awareness, awareness of renewable energy, and ultimately the reduction of carbon emissions. And post-quake, the Trust focused on the opportunity provided by the rebuild to encourage renewable energy within the CBD, particularly in large buildings and mainly using ground-sourced heat pumps. And that was what we set aside was a pot called the Christchurch Energy Grants, and that was about 1.8 million in that scheme. And Cafe would fund up to 30% of a project, not all of it, up to 30% and up to 300k. So it was really an incentivisation to actually embrace this renewable energy, and I think we're all really proud of that. I really want to thank the people involved at the time, and I think Bob Parker was involved at the beginning and quite a few other people who actually had the foresight to set this trust up with that money, because it's all coming to fruition now when we realise even more how important carbon reductions are and energy efficiency. We got to a point where we amended the deed to broaden the criteria for which the grants could be made without altering the purpose or the charitable status. So you've heard about all the energy grants and the big schemes that we put money into, but we also managed to branch out into things like the LED lighting, the electric air trial, and the UGO and the chargers and the buses, and also the Methodist missions with their, that was a very small allocation to them, I think, just to do the light bulb changing, whereas the Canterbury Energy Action were actually putting in total LED units. Of course, it is a charitable trust, so everyone involved was there in a voluntary capacity. I'd particularly like to thank Richard Briggs from ECA and Stephen Godfrey from Orion, who put in a considerable amount of time and offered their expertise around the board table. Councillor Ben Livingston, who was involved until last year, and more recently Councillor Mike Davidson, as the two, along with me, as the two council reps on that trust. And also all the council staff for their support, Sam there, sitting there, and Henry in the back there. It's been quite a lot of meetings at times. I think for a while there we were meeting monthly. And particularly, of course, Kevin Crutchley there, you know, because Kevin, you're so passionate about this, you're so passionate about energy conservation, innovation, all that stuff, and it's your manner in going out and actually talking people into taking the plunge and doing these sorts of things, which were years ago more cutting edge. And I think you talked a lot of people into going down this path because of the way you've handled it. So it's been a complex process as well, because these applications were not quick. They'd have to actually pitch for them and get approval. Then we would have to agree as a board to allocate the funds, and then the project would have to be well along the path before we actually allocated any of that funding. So it's been a real journey, and it's been a privilege to have been involved in that trust. And of course, I say we've wound it up now with a small amount left that we agreed to contribute to the Mayor's Welfare Fund. So, and I think having those awards there actually shows that it has done something for Christchurch City. We are wanting to be a clean, green city, and as I say, it's just been wonderful to be involved in that. So thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. So we've got a recommendation in front of us. Oh, first of all, are there any questions? Aaron.
Yeah, I just had one, and it was around the photos. Firstly, the last one of Darth Vader is about 6 or 8 inches too short and probably 50 kilos light. That's a very small Darth Vader, let's be honest. And that Stormtrooper's a bit on the light side as well. They do come from Polynesian pedigree. Django Fett, played by the New Zealander, Mr. Morrison. The other ones, of all the parking spots, can we not use photos where someone's actually charging? I mean, it's like when we do a cycleway and there's no one on a bike. It's just a bad sell. So I note that
No pun intended.
no one's actually using them.
Unfortunately, we moved the cars to show the signage.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
Really?
sorry. Well, next time we'll leave the cars in place
Did you actually move the cars?
to get the signage right.
A lot of those pictures were taken from the installer, and they've just gone in.
Yeah.
And Len's actually right, on some sites on council we want to have the cars away so we can show off the signage, because around the country they're not always following that NZTA signage on the
Right.
ground. So it was just by chance when the airport took that shot and so forth. So,
It was just by
but we
chance
do
it
need
was
some
in.
good shots. We've got one in Sumner with one charging up.
Yeah. That's why we're a council, not an ad agency. Because normally when you're selling a product, you show it in use. Is that yes.
We wanted to show you the charges and the signage and their glory.
Understood. Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, no further questions. James.
Kia ora, I just want to put my oar in here. Thank you for putting some funding towards zilch, actually, because I'm a member of the club and use an electric car every day or partially because of this funding. So thank you. Money well spent.
All right, so...
And I just had one question as well,
yeah,
Andrew.
sorry. Okay, yep. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. I mean, interesting to look at where the money's been spent. I guess also to think about where it hasn't in terms of things like social housing and council facilities. But my understanding, because it was a trust, we were unable to use that money for council projects. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. Just in terms of the electric buses, which are well, they're not specifically council, but obviously one of our companies owns them. Have we had any update? I mean, it would just seem a real shame that we've invested that money, and I understand they've been really well. I think Redbus said that they had a 10% increase in patronage for using the electric buses. Has there been any discussions with Redbus about either acquiring them or keeping them in use in the city?
There will be a report coming from Redbus as part of the agreement, just on how it's all gone with those brand new buses and patronage and all those sorts of things. So we're really looking forward to that report, because we think we might find some interesting findings. And when you have brand new buses, and let alone battery electric buses operating on a route, what does that do to patronage? So that will come. Yeah.
Will that come to the full council or to the Transport Committee of Council?
I'm not sure where it would go. It's part of the requirements to go to the trust, but I think the information that comes out of that will be of importance, I think, for Transport to have a look at, and ECAN to have a look at, because ECAN also supported that project.
And anything coming out of that we might want to pick up with CCHL from a Redbus viewpoint, obviously that could be a trigger for that further conversation.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Yeah, great. Thank you, and thank you for all the work that you've done.
All right, thank you. Now, do I have a mover for these recommendations? Melanie will move, and a seconder. Jimmy Chen will second. Is there any debate? Pauline, I'd like to just reiterate the comments that you've made. Clearly, between 2010 and now, this organisation has made a difference. Funds have been distributed in a way that has made a difference. Certainly picking up the comment was made around those EV charging stations. Whilst the photos may have shown them not in use, I think anecdotally as we move around the city we see that those are very well used, increasingly well used, I think it's fair to say. But clearly the 2.2 million distributed has made a difference, and really just reiterating thanks to everybody that's been involved over the years in achieving what this trust has achieved, and obviously in passing these resolutions today, the small amount of residual funding transfers to the Mayor's Welfare Fund, where I'm sure that'll also be well used. So just noting the conflict on the part of Pauline as the chair of the trust, and of Anne Galloway and Yanni as trustees of the Mayor's Welfare Fund, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.